everyone. Thank you for joining in at such a short notice to this press briefing called by uh, Growth Watch India. I'm Rajni, and I'm based out of Bangalore, and I'm an environmental activist, and I've been most of the team here. And the purpose of calling this meeting today I think it has come to you along with the invite, was basically the three felling orders which came to light to a few of us that in the midst of the pandemic and the Karnataka government's lockdown imposition, there were three felling orders in the Kali Tiger Reserve. Whereas both in the Karnataka High Court, Mr. Yellappa Reddy, who's also here with us, thank you, Yellappa Reddy, for joining in. He has filed a writ petition. The PIL was filed on 23rd April 2021. The centrally empowered committee, at the same time, the same day, has submitted it to the Supreme Court a report stating this double tracking of the railway line between Hospet to Vasco via both Karnataka and Goa is completely unnecessary project. So while all these matters were still being heard in various courts, we had Goa Foundation in the High Court of Bombay High Court, Goa. There is another petition there. So in the midst of all this, we had three felling orders, and we felt it was necessary to inform the public through the media. Thank you, media, for joining in. After I speak, I will hand it over to Mr. Yellappa Reddy, and then we would like to take your questions. Shrija is also here. Most of the documents are now in the public domain. We can share whatever questions you have. We'll try and answer them. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Dear friends, you will be aware that the linear stripping of thousands of trees in an ecologically highly sensitive area is something which is going to cause very severe disconnection with freshwater system, the marine ecosystems. So this, because I served there for my long years in that zone as a conservative forest, I'm quite familiar about the nature of rainfall, the terrain, and the water flow, fresh water flow, how important it is. So, according to me, if the forest department have taken liberty to give permission to cut thousands of trees, it will certainly end up with some sort of an ecological disaster. And in my opinion, it amounts to ecocide. So because Anshik National Park, arena of life, consists of very unique, distinct ecosystem, brimming with composed organisms in their extremely sensitive physical environment. Extremely sensitive physical environment, it supports very, very interesting arena of life. The second point is this terrestrial ecosystem is highly protected and is connected to the marine life of Goa and Karwa. The marine ecosystems caters enormous population of phytoplankton, microscopic photosynthetic bacteria, algae, and marine life. Through algae, bacteria and algae to marine life, and it provides energy nutrients. So any disturbance to this ecosystem of inflow of energy and nutrients will ruin the entire habitat of mines together. These phytoplanktons are eaten by zooplanktons, the tiny crustacean and larvae of invertebrates, fish, that are very small,
you have got muted, sir. Hello. Sorry, we had to mute you with there was some technical issue. Can you please unmute? ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಅವ್ರ ಮೈಕ್ಸ್ನ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ while Mr. Yellappa speaks. We'll ask you to later on unmute and ask your questions. Did we lose him?
No, he's there, but he's still muted.
Video has also gone on. So we'll continue once he is back.
Yes.
Shrija.
I think I'll just give a brief preface to what's been happening, and then the groups from Goa can take this forward. So to begin with, we are dealing with two sorts of clearances here. One is the wildlife clearance that was granted on 5th of January 2021, and there was just a press note that was released, and for a month or so the minutes of that meeting were never uploaded. So thereafter, when the minutes were uploaded in the ministry's website, we had prepared a PIL and challenged the wildlife clearance on the specific points that this project does not have NTCA's go-ahead, and it's in a tiger reserve. So under the Wildlife Protection Act, NTCA's nod is absolutely necessary. It's a statutory compliance that they have to do before deciding on the wildlife clearance or the forest clearance. And then while researching for this case, we came across all sorts of irregularities in the administrative decision making within the forest department, within NTCA, and also we found proof from the Wildlife Institute of India asking around 36 lakhs of rupees to conduct the mitigation measure study. So with all these contentions, we had approached the Honorable High Court of Karnataka, and before that Goa Foundation had filed a complaint against the entire project, the 3 linear projects that's been a point of discussion for over a year now. And Central Empowered Committee had submitted their report on 23rd April to the registry of the Supreme Court, and the recommendation is very clear. It says that this doubling of the railway project is absolutely not required and it should be scrapped in totality. So while we were all looking at the project in total, and several other groups were writing to the ministry from time and again, the stage 1 forest clearance came to our light in the month of March, whereas that was granted in the month of February. There was no communication, nothing at all. So immediately a renowned group of scientists from Goa and across India had written to the Forest Department of Goa, to the Forest Department of Karnataka, specifically saying that this project requires further appraisal, and these sorts of tree felling permission should not be granted, and we should be heard before any such decision is taken. But as we see, again, this tree felling permission has been granted without any information or any idea of the people who are constantly engaging with these authorities or these officers for over a year now, and this is completely in a secrecy. While we found out this order today, I will not disclose the source, it is certainly not there on the public domain. When I tried to check for the status of the proposal on ministry's website, that is Parivesh, the entire proposal is missing. And something that is to be noted here is that for linear infrastructure projects, stage 1 clearance basically means a go-ahead to further grant tree felling permission. However, the stage 2, which is the final clearance that again comes from the ministry, has not come yet. So it's very suspicious why whosoever has removed the proposal from the ministry's website, hence the public cannot access it and cannot trace the records of this proposal. And it's a technical argument, but the problem is that the order that we found out today had been issued to fell trees is the order that is to be challenged before the NGT within 30 days of communication. Now this order was issued on 30th April, certainly it was not communicated, and we have no idea what is the ground reality. And an appeal at this point of time before NGT also makes no sense. So it's basically taking the citizens right from approaching a statutory authority on a rightful appeal if we are agreed. So there is absolutely no communication and all of that. This is done in great secrecy, which raises a greater question. And time and again, it's nothing hidden from our side. We have been constantly saying that a further review is required. All this information have been submitted. So it's very alarming that this kind of forest clearances and this sort of tree felling permissions are issued and the general public is completely kept in dark. So this is the issue broadly, and there are other issues which I think Mr. Vikas Bhagat is in a rightful position to explain us and to brief the media about what's been going on in Goa side, because the work is going on both sides. They hadn't touched the forest section as far as we know, but then in light of such tree felling orders, we cannot really say anything for sure. So I will request Mr. Vikas Bhagat to speak.
Please unmute yourself, Vikas.
Vikas, you are muted.
Dr. Yelapreti will come back to you shortly. Should we ask sir to continue if Mr. Vikas is getting? Sir, you can quickly continue. Mr. Vikas will come back to you after Dr. Yelapreti finishes his what he was talking about. Is that okay? Yes, sir.
Can I speak one?
Yes, sir.
Shall I start from the beginning? What?
No, sir, you can continue. Shrija, meanwhile, updated on the chronology and what has happened. Yeah, so you can continue. Yeah.
Because I am quite familiar about the ecosystems there. Is connected with the marine ecosystem. The entire belt of between Goa and Karwa, and it is a most productive zone, and where thousands of people depend upon productivity of marine life. Productivity of marine life entirely depends upon the inputs from the terrestrial and marine ecosystem, the marine ecosystem. With this order of cutting the trees, thousands of trees, they have to form a road, and large number of men and missionaries, heavy missionaries will move around. So with this movement of the heavy vehicles and the men and materials, etc., and salvaging the timber, will suddenly will disconnect linearly, the linear disconnection. It will break the flow and will destroy the entire marine ecosystem because of the massive movement of the heavy machineries, etc. So this process of cutting trees will continue for few months or even 6 months or 7 months because terrain is very, very undulating. It is not easy. So apart from that, after that tree felling, whatever the number of trees they are now proposed to, which they have given permission, the attendant effect of forming the road, cutting the trees, and then all other things is not being taken into account. Totally according to me, because I have seen several projects, the effective number of trees which they have enumerated into a permission is 2,800. But certainly it is 10 times more than that will be fed, and it will land all along linearly, that is going to be broken into shattered pieces. With the result, the whole ecosystem and the flow of this bird and the habitat for the marine life will be totally destroyed. What I say, the ecological disaster, and it amounts to ecocide of the marine life, and the entire culture of Goa and Karwa not take a very practical because I do not know how the forest officers who have permitted this felling of trees, knowing fully well court orders and the notices issued, and also the central court company also brought to the notice of the High Court about there's no need for double track, etc. So already enough damage has been done, roads are already there, and nothing prevents them to apply their mind more seriously about the disaster which is going to create. Already we have done damage, but so recovering. But meanwhile, this disaster will end up with very, very massive destruction, and it will be permanent, and it will have a very, very massive disaster. I can predict that even the double track, single track, the road, landscapes, etc., the type of rainfall, the pressure in the area, all these things together, that is not going to help anybody. Ultimately, we are going to lose the land, the rivers, marine habitat, etc. Without thinking the consequences. Consequences, according to me, is very, very serious. But that will be appeal, and we would like to bring it to the notice of the High Court and also the other legal authorities to prevent this disaster.
Thank you, sir. So, if anyone requires a translation, please let me know. Like sir has emphasized, having worked in that area and also being one of the persons behind getting the area declared as a national park back in the 80s and the 90s, and very closely having worked with academicians, researchers of all kinds of repute and mainstream birders, wildlife conservationists, ecological experts. This comes from a person who's also gone to court and and as citizens we've been using all the forums like Shrita said, engaging with the authorities to get this matter heard in and settled in an amicable way. And so I'll hand it over to Mr. Vikas.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please
Yeah,
go ahead.
Sreja know all these things even.
Yeah, so Karmal Ghat, Shrija, would you like to emphasize on that place? It is in. Yeah.
Basically, there are two highways, NH17B and NH4A, which were granted administrative permission together, and these proposals were appraised also together. Let's start my video. Yeah, both are interconnected road networks that is cutting through the western ghats of Goa and Karnataka state. So we had taken up the Karmal Ghat highway issue back in April 2020, and we got positive response on that. So basically what Vikas is trying to indicate is that we are all being busy doing firefighting, whereas we are the one who are promptly engaging with the authorities. Like, I can show you 5 letters from scientists, lawyers and other groups who had constantly been engaging, and in this year specifically, after we came to know that the stage 1 had been granted, we have been repeatedly asking them not to grant this tree felling permission. So this has completely taken me by surprise that they have done this, and also without informing us. It's not there on the public domain, and the larger questions are that why is the proposal removed from Parivesh suddenly? And we have with us the RTI responses on the whole proposal from the Forest Department. We followed it up till April, and we had this trust that the department will at least inform us if they are taking any adverse decision and give us an opportunity to be heard, but that has clearly not been done. So, if we have to keep coming back and keep on doing this searching and investigation, this is creating a trust deficit between the people and the administration and the Forest Department. Now, we have attached in our petition before the High Court, Honorable High Court at Karnataka, that there were multiple letters being addressed to the Forest Department, where there was a reference of the PMO office constantly pressurizing them that clearances should be granted as soon as possible. These are part of our record in the High Court, and so the pressure was quite prominent, that there is a pressure, there is a dictation that they are literally capacity after the Vasco port is expanded, this railway network is very vital for the port to be successful. So this was the clear dictum, and then thereafter we had also got through RTI the daily number of trains that are plying. So that list is also there with us, and we see that the majority of the trains are cargo trains, hardly any passenger trains. Now this project, several indications are there in the documentation, so it's very inconsistent. Somewhere they say it's for the Sagarmala, somewhere they say that it is for the strategic importance. So it's very confusing. They are changing their narrative. But if you look at the previous decision-making documents, it's quite clear that it's to bring coal from Vasco to Karnataka. And there is an ongoing coal agitation that Vikas is aware of in Goa.
Yeah.
And the CM is making statement that he is going to put a cap on the quantity. So the question is why pressurize all the departments who are there to protect the environment and forest to grant such clearances in haste? Like this could have waited.
Yes. Just to add to that, ADB, which is has made this entire project possible by funding the phase 1 of this project from Hospet up to Tinaigat, and Tinaigat to Vasco, which is the phase 2, in which lies the tiger reserve between Tinaigat and Castle Rock, and going on to Goa, the Bhagwan Mahadev Das and Molem. This is funded directly by the Government of India and not the ADB. So we have looked into documents, the EIA and the DPR of phase 1, and we strongly believe that ADB has made this project possible in the first place, but it has stayed safe by staying out of the tiger reserve. So this is the role that these played by ADB by funding such a project, which actually very clearly is a continuous project split into two, simply because the second half lies in an ecologically sensitive zone, as highlighted by Mr. Yelappareddy. It's not just a normal forest, it's a very eco-sensitive zone. The Western Ghats protection, the west flowing rivers, the estuaries, the ecosystems, the coastal zones of Karwar, Karwar and Goa, and even parts of other parts of Uttar Karnataka are highly dependent on the Kali River, and this has been a point of contention for activists who've been working right from asking questions about the coal, the cargo, which is the coal, like the activists in Goa are rightly pointing out, and so we would like you to take this forward. If there are any questions, please put it in. Hudson, thank you for putting that in. The resettlement plan for Hospet Tinaigat is there. So,
and also one thing that needs to be highlighted is that from the Sagarmala document, it's clearly mentioned that two private consultants, one is AECOM based in Gurgaon and McKinsey, is writing in their document before the Ministry of Shipping saying that the local state governments has to be pressurized from the center to make this railway line. So we take this tree felling permission granted amidst a pandemic in spite of so many objections being filed. Is this indicate to that direction then? That's the larger question that needs to be asked now. There is a private consultant to dictate that what the center and the state should do, and thereafter PMO's letters are being thrown at them to get out the clearances as soon as possible. What is the great hurry? If passenger trains are in number are so less, it's certainly cargo. There is no way they can deny it. And ADB's funding document has also come to light, which clearly shows that 2,200 crores were invested for the 200 kilometers of the stretch, and the rest of the 100 kilometers is coming at a cost of 900 crores, partly distributed between the government of Karnataka and government of India. And in May, we also came across a news article where government of India is asking for interest. So there is a dispute between the state and the center with regard to the rest of the funding that's being provided to this project. In light of all of this, this tree felling permission is very shocking. And this was granted in April, and we are at almost after 2 months we are talking about it.
Sir, can you unmute yourself, Mr. Yelapreddy? Who wants to say something? Any more questions? Please put your name in the chat window, and we'll ask you to unmute and speak in turns. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೆಸರು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಚಾಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅನ್ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೋದು. Is there anyone who wants to add on this matter? Either citizens or media friends? Questions, Shrija? I put some documents on the chat.
I think Dr. Yelapreddy is unmuted now.
Oh, okay.
Can you talk me?
Yes, sir. Now we can. Can you stay close to this, your iPad computer and speak, sir?
Okay. The world is aware that about the climate change, and coal industry or coal transportation and thermal power plant is the most dirtiest thing in any activity for them or catering the energy need, and the impact is so severe and the threat is very well known. Despite of that, this activity in ecologically sensitive area will have a very wide ecological impact of while transporting, while loading, while unloading, and all kinds of things. It's the most dirtiest thing, and the fly ash and the acid rains, sulfur dioxide, nitric oxides, all these things is very well documented, and everybody is getting rid of the thermal power plant. But how is that our country, in spite of a signatory of 2015 Paris Agreement, we are encouraging this activity and accelerating that with all this destruction? It is something very shocking.
Yes, sir. I think because we are recording this and we're live on Facebook,
Recording stopped.
we can stop it now so that people can freely speak, ask any questions. Recording has been will be stopped shortly. Vidya, can you confirm?
It stopped, yes.
Okay. Yeah, we're not recording the session webinar, this Zoom meeting anymore. Anyone can unmute and speak if you require to ask a question to Sir or Vidya, Shrija, we're all available here. Deepika, do you want to say something? Yeah, the live streaming on Facebook also has been stopped. Thanks.
I have a small question, general question. So the similar thing is happening in Bakswaha in MP also. In Madhya Pradesh High Court, the same thing is filed, but NTCA has not been informed about this. So, what can be done to, as a general public, that we can do to change this trend of the government?
See, here the NTCA was rightfully consulted, but what has happened is NTCA Regional Office Bangalore had done a site inspection, and they had recommended taking up 3 further studies. The 3 further studies was a cumulative impact assessment, and one suggestion was to engage Wildlife Institute of India to to see if any mitigation measures can be suggested, not that direct that you straight away employ Wildlife Institute of India and ask for mitigation measure. And the third was the cost benefit analysis of the highway and the road project, because it is practically dissecting the same landscape. Now, this report was sent from NTCA Bangalore to NTCA Delhi, but for reasons best known to the NTCA Delhi office, they cherry-picked this part of engaging Wildlife Institute of India to see the feasibility of mitigation measures, and the whole report was not even submitted before the committee which is headed by the Union Environment Minister, Mr. Prakash Javadekar. And it is also a fact that the Karnataka Forest Department does not have the entire copy of NTCA's recommendation and report. So NTCA's recommendation highlights a very important aspect, which is that this is a very important tiger corridor. Any disturbance to this will affect the tiger population of 3 states, Maharashtra, Goa and Karnataka. And further, this is the route, and studies have shown that tigers from Bhadra have travelled through this, using this corridor, and have gone to the sanctuaries in Maharashtra. So what we are talking about here is a pristine Western Ghats tiger habitat which is being compromised because of this sort of administrative decision making.
Fragmenting this is going to have a very serious genetic impact.
Yeah, I think Nikita's question was, as ordinary citizens, what can we do?
Others,
Lodge complaints. Yes, we should start lodging complaints with the Forest Department and the Union Environment Ministry to take this very seriously, because the voices are just 5-6 names that have been concentrated and we are writing, but I think that they are not taking this seriously. Otherwise, this sort of things wouldn't have happened. And it's also important to point out the conflict of interest that is there at every stage of decision making in this process. First, the EIA is being prepared by Indian Institute of Science, and Dr. R. Sukumar is one of the signatories and scientists who have prepared the EIA. He himself is a committee member of the Standing Committee for National Board who is granting the clearances. That is conflict number 1. Second conflict is Wildlife Institute of India writes to the Union Ministry on 15th of October 2020 saying that after the defunding from the central funds, the institute is not capable of taking up any further scientific study or EIAs on behalf of the Government of India for these sort of projects, and they have to directly ask for funding from the user agency thereupon, and it will lead to conflict of interest. Within 5 days, there was a proposal, financial proposal and a work proposal submitted, exactly doing the same thing, asking for an amount close to 37 lakhs to do the study. So it's the clear conflict of interest in their own words. Then the third conflict of interest is the director of Wildlife Institute of India, Mr. Dhananjay Mohan, is brother of the PCCF head of Forest Force of Karnataka, Mr. Sanjay Mohan. And we have taken it up very seriously. The scientist group had done a peer review of the study and have jumped the Wildlife Institute of India mitigation measures as a bad science. Several infirmities were shown. So the discussion is not new. It's been going on from both states, but it's not been taken seriously. So NTCA looks like it has been reduced to a paper tiger of the union government. And after the amalgamation of all the regional offices, so they have no independence left.
This simple fragmentation is going to segregate 3 streams. Then tiger movement is completely restricted. With that, there will be the genetic aberration will take place. Ultimately, the tiger population will be wiped out.
Yes. And it's an accepted fact that the existing line between Hospet to Vasco does not have proper mitigation measures.
But
Yes, several wildlife conservationist activists have written repeatedly to the government, lodged complaints on the wildlife deaths happening along the railway line, especially in the forest section. So this was a project which is not supposed to have been there. Having the single track, the double track is absolutely unnecessary, as seen by us, by the government's own enlightened agencies and reports. Um, so,
And the type of traffic during night time, all the tigers and panthers and most of the nocturnal animals, the movement will be during the night time. So the traffic of both vehicular and the train traffic will increase 3 times or 4 times as indicated in our petition. So that is going to certainly kill more animals, all kinds of animals, including the herbivores and the carnivores, including the black panther, all kinds of other cat family. Their movement will be only during night time. So that any bright light will blur their eyes and they will be vulnerable for accidents and they will destroy everything almost.
Rajni will take questions.
yeah, please unmute yourself and you can ask directly.
Hi, my name is Shomo Chatterjee. I'm a reporter with the News Minute in Bangalore.
Yes, sure.
So I just wanted to know what is the current event that we can write about and highlight, because I know this is a broad issue and we've been writing a lot on this. But as the current news point, if we are summarized over what is the latest clearance that have been granted to chop 181 trees on the Karnataka side and several in the Goa side. So if you can...
Both are in the Karnataka side, 2097 in the Tiger Reserve, in the Kali Tiger Reserve is also Karnataka, and 181 in the Halyal Forest Range. Both are within Karnataka. Yeah.
So in total something less than 2,500 trees that have been green lighted for chopping without and if you can highlight what are the due processes that have been not followed in giving clearance.
First and foremost, this order is yet to be communicated.
Right.
And that's the clear violation of Section 16 of the National Green Tribunal Act.
Right.
And to go into the details of how there are procedural improprieties in the stage one, that is, I'll share a representation that we had sent out on 15th of March. It encompasses all the violations that are there.
Okay. So what, from a reporter's point of view, it's very important for us to keep, concentrated on the single news point that is happening right now. I understand this is a broader issue and there are broader players at stake. So while there can be stories done, newspaper reports and documentaries can be done at a larger level, but for this instance, I think first reporters need to be acquainted with the current facts, and then we talked about the background and what's ahead. So I think, at least for me personally, I'm very confused about today's discussion, because we are going back and forth too much. Like
Shami, one of the things is that while the petition in the Honorable Karnataka High Court is about the clearances, the tree felling was not expected at all. The violation of the orders dated 28th and 30th, which we cannot disclose the sources through which we got them. These are both orders in Karnataka, and we can share it in Kannada, and we can share it with you. These orders are yet to be communicated to the general public.
Right.
So that's violation number one, like Shrija pointed out. Violation number two is that the order states the reason is the stage one approval has come for the project, which is double tracking of the railway line. Now that forest diversion proposal, which was previously hosted on MOER's portal, Paridesh, is no more available. So the question is, for what reason was the tree felling permission granted when the project itself is no more even present in the public domain? So I'm not sure how many angles you cover, but these are the two things that are
We have been told, sorry, yes, Shrija. Just to say that someone has texted me, who's also now part of our meeting, that Parivesh has now put up these documents in the public domain. I haven't been able to check, but I have been texted that this has now happened.
Wow.
And that our press conference is being listened into.
Okay.
So the communication with the forest department this morning has alarmed them and it has been brought back.
Yes.
This is precisely the things that we want to highlight, Shomya, and to the members of the press, that why is this hide and seek going on? And I understand that from a reporter's point of view, you would like to cover what is the issue in hand. The issue in hand is very simple, that while the general citizens are locked up and literally under house arrest and section 144 has been imposed, there is practically nobody to go and check how many trees have been felled and who is monitoring this and why was this hidden for so long? That's the main question.
Right.
The other question is, without public hearing, they cannot give a permission for felling this in an ecologically sensitive area. Tree Act is a violation of the Tree Act of 1976, which we are fighting in the court.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, I think, I'm now more, clear about the news point in hand. And yeah, please, I'll go back to listening.
So basically, right now the legal status is neither before the Supreme Court nor before the Bombay High Court at Goa or at Karnataka. We do not have any stay order from the court. So our petition is listed for 15th of July and Supreme Court is yet to give a date to consider CEC's report. So in a haste, all this attempt is being done to make the litigations infructuous. That's the main intent and hence we are addressing the press today. That this is our grave concern.
The intention is very clear, to make petition infructuous.
Right. So the tree felling order, although technicalities in under forest laws and other environmental laws is illegal, but the order itself, in connection with the cases that have been already filed by the environmentalist, that is not illegal per se. Like, that is not contempt of court per se.
No, not contempt of court, but we were not heard. We were rightful parties to be heard.
Right. Okay. But that is still not an illegality per se.
So the notice has gone to the government of Karnataka on the 23rd of April as soon as the petition was filed. So
Right.
post that notice, until the matter was heard, even before the matter was heard and the court went on holiday and the next date of hearing is July, these tree felling orders come for the same project. So in that perspective, yes, it may not be legal, but the pandemic, the lockdown, and the illegality of the Tree Act, the illegality of not having a public consultation / notice, all these add up, is what I would say.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Now we can get the
What we have been doing is repeatedly, activists and citizens have been speaking to the officials, asking for either through RTIs or speaking to them to know the status.
Right.
Knowing this, it has really set us back by 2 months when we were all stuck in our homes. And it's not like we are in complete unlock right now. It is still not safe to venture out. Our access to government offices has been limited. So hence, this is an important factor.
Right. Thank you.
All the authorities directly and asked.
I think every kind of campaign works, and it needs pressure on all sides. It's so important because, for example, we had this campaign locally called Kiri Kiri campaign, where people were just shared the DCS number or the Deputy Commissioner's number on any issue, and then people would call them incessantly and message them incessantly, and people in power who had not done the right thing through various omissions and commissions would then respond, because right there on their phone would be so many messages coming in. I myself have used calling and messaging quite effectively. I remember it was some case of an activist picked up in Raipur, and someone else also who needed medical attention, and I just messaged and called, and they actually got medical attention despite being incarcerated, etc. So I do believe in the power of reaching out and calling and believing that the system has to listen and respond.
Very correct.
Yeah, and I think with respect to is the number sharing illegal. Most of the public servants' numbers which are in the public domain on the websites of the government are meant to be shared with citizens. So it is all on the public domain anyway. So those are the numbers through which we call, emails to which we write, and yeah, we do have those channels of communication available to us.
And also, I would like to highlight that this is an infringement of the RTI Act. Section 4 of the RTI Act is very clear that any kind of decision-making document has to be digitalized and made available on all sorts of websites at the earliest. So, while we were on this call, we were informed that the proposal has been restored back on Parivesh website, but one has to go and check if these orders are there. If these orders are not there, it's a clear violation of the RTI Act as well.
Yes, all public documents should be in the public domain, and that is something that we have been always saying. Nobody should be sitting and acting as if they are their private property. So this is something we need to keep pushing, and if we can't turn up in this time of the pandemic, we need to call, we need to write, we need to message, etc. And we need to have press conferences on Zoom. Thank you so much for turning up, even though it was extremely short notice. Are there any more questions? And Vikas, do you have something more to add?
Yeah, I think if no other questions, we'll wrap it up. Is that okay, Shrija? Mr. Yelappan?
I have a question from Chiranjeevi. He is asking, has the NTCA NBWL overruled CEC's finding? No, they haven't. Were you able to get the minutes of the meeting and these two bodies' report was discussed? No, they haven't. They haven't discussed the report at all. So after the submission of CEC's report before the Supreme Court registry, there is a complete silence. So is the case with the response to our petition as well. We haven't received response from any of the parties added, and all of them are added over there. So we haven't received any kind sort of communication. Like not only the public engagement and activist engagement, even from the legal end, there is no response.
So the clearances have come when the matter is sub judice, per se.
This is done in a haste. So if you look at the chronology of events, 23rd of April we filed the PIL and we serve a copy to the government advocate, and that was served to be transferred to the PCCF's office, and on the same day CEC also submits its report before the Supreme Court, and the tree felling permissions have come only 5 days or 6 days from there on. So what is to be concluded from this sort of behavior from these authorities? Like, while they are choosing not to respond to the petitions, but they are choosing to issue such orders when the public liberty is at stake. Like, Section 144 was imposed all across the state.
The total disregard.
So the bid clearance orders have come in violation of the rules that are there in NBW and as well as this ATCA.
Yes, see, it's mainly the violation of NTCA's own. Actually, it's downplaying NTCA's statutory power under the Wildlife Protection Act. When NTCA's report is clearly stating that we are not granting the go-ahead and we want 3 more studies to be conducted. You here have conducted only 1 study. Where is the cost-benefit analysis and where is the cumulative impact assessment? When it's a tiger reserve, NTCA is the last authority. We can even say that NTCA has the power of veto.
That's right. That's why I wanted to check whether there are any minutes of NTCA discussion.
We can give you the NTCA report. It's there. It's part of our petition as well. We can certainly give you a report. It's all there. And section 38O is the relevant provision of the Wildlife Protection Act. And this is not just a tiger reserve, it's a tiger reserve connecting other tiger habitat areas and corridors. So the seriousness is even more. There are 2 provisions under the Wildlife Protection Act which gives NTCA the veto power.
It totally prevents the genetic flow.
Sorry, it's an hour now. So if there are any more questions, please unmute and ask. Otherwise, sir, Shrija, shall we?
Yes, we will please take the email IDs. We will share the copy of our writ petition and also the Wildlife Institute of India report and the NTCA report with the members of the press.
ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ತಮ್ಮ ಇಮೇಲ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಚಾಟ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ.
Yeah, in case you want a copy of the petition, which also includes all the documents that Shrija has mentioned, the NTCA report. Yes, stay back, we'll share it with you.
Okay, then Rajni, we can, I think, wrap up.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you everyone for coming. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reddy. Thank you, Vikas from Goa. Yes, Vikas, you want to say something? Okay. No, we should thank those from Goa because they've led such a wonderful fight and they've kept, the fight against coal, against this double tracking.
Yeah. So many protests we are doing every day in Goa. And they impose 144 in North Goa as well as South Goa.
Yeah.
Goa has to pay very, very huge price for acid rains. Acid rains is a
Yeah, you guys are an inspiration, really. And we are doing what activism from home, but you guys are out there and pushing the
Fighting is not a new for Goa. We are the fighters. Every state we fight for the freedom, for the opinion poll, for the statehood and everything. This is our fourth fight.
Yes.
Thank you.
More of this. Yes.
Thank you, member of the press, for joining us on such short notice. The issue is indeed very vast and so much has been written and talked about. So any kind of help, we are always there. We will email the required documents to the member of the press who have shared their email IDs shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all. We'll close then.
Yes.
Thank you. Rajni, I'll close the thing.
Yes, Vidya.